TTRPGs are just as broad as film when it comes to ideas, setting, stories, atmosphere, innovation, or whatever other creative metric you can mention. Yet, a lot of people in our hobby tend to find one of the role-playing cultures of play, as they call them, that suits their preferred game style the most. OSR, NSR is a thing, new school, classic, many others. Then, most tend to stay within that somewhat rigid box. And if someone dares to make their game a little bit deadlier, or more heroic, or more story-driven, or whatever else they claim, others often claim, no, that's not how you should play this game. I want to tell you today that none of that matters, and that you don't have to wholesale take on each and every ideology, or idea, or aspect of this playstyle or rule system that you're playing. And instead, I'm going to give you 7 metrics that typically differ amongst these playstyles, and I'm going to tell you how to mix and match them to run the game that best suits you and your players with your own unique playstyles and personalities. Like master chefs and innovators, we are going to craft the game of our dreams and not care about what anyone else thinks. Let's do this. Ideology 1, Heroism. Are your player characters just ordinary people that just happen to be at the right place at the right time? They just happen to be the ones that picked the sword up when adventure called? Are they a bit more heroic and badass? Or are they going to eventually be the equivalent of superheroes, or eventually even rival the powers of the gods themselves? There is a spectrum ranging from being maybe folk heroes at best, all the way towards godlike superheroes, and you need to pick this based on the type of story that you want to tell at your table and what your players like. Maybe they like a more grounded setting and system. Of course, some systems like 5e is really more built towards the superhero ideal, and Shadowdark more for the folk hero type, but you can change this. You can tone the powers up and down, add multipliers, make them roll more dice. You can add more hit points. Nothing is stopping you, and I'm not going to judge you. Ideology number 2, deadliness. Should every encounter be potentially deadly? Or should your game's mechanics have safety nets built in place? A game I love, Mothership, is on the one extreme of the spectrum where there are wound tables and a single hit can kill you if you roll badly on that table. This mechanic suits the type of stories and experiences that Mothership typically wants to tell. Dragonbane, on the other hand, is fairly deadly, but there are death saves that can save you or buy time until a party member can help you back up to your feet. Some systems like Fabula Ultima over there cannot kill players off without their consent. Terrible things still happen when they surrender or are knocked unconscious. There's narrative knock-on effects. Fate's far worse than death. They lose their loved ones, or that village gets burned down that they were trying to save. But it's about a collaborative narrative, so players need to opt into having their characters killed ever. Once again, feel free to add wound tables to your game if you want death or injury to be more gritty and realistic, or just add death saves every round if you feel, or bump the hit points up if you feel it's a little bit too harsh. Borrow from other systems, take it for a spin in your game, ask your players what they want, and then give it a try. I really don't care what the purists say. My favorite role-playing books like Mothership over there tells you when you read it, take this book, devour it, discard what doesn't work at your table, make the game your own. And that's what I want to say here today as we get on to point number 3, which is random generation. Some OSR games or old school inspired games like Dungeon Crawl Classics strongly suggest that you do the 3d6 down the line method of character generation, where you randomly roll on each stat and you just accept that and you can't swap them around. Now, the ideology here makes sense of game balance in terms of randomization instead of balancing every stat. There's a whole analysis about that we can't get into. And also, it forces players to sometimes try out characters that they wouldn't normally play. In the long run, some of these characters that seem weak actually end up surviving and inspiring and surprising us. The other end of the spectrum is craft the specific character whose story you want to tell, this particular build you want to take for a spin, and you make this OP build and you want to see it in action, right? Just because your rulebook says, roll it randomly, assign these stat points, it doesn't mean you can't go, hang on, let's make it a bit random so we actually try out new things and flex our role-playing skills a little bit. Or we just go, you know what, let's give stat points out. Last time we all played characters we did not enjoy because it's our table and we get to do what we want. Ideology number 4, how story-driven should your game be? There's nothing wrong with people wanting a fairly rigid, at least main quest, that's fairly rigid and on rails, and players can't deviate too far from that, and they are perfectly happy with the GM telling mostly this particular story, and they add flavor on top of it. It can also be a sandbox adventure where the narrative is purely emergent. Or there's not really any narrative. We do fun things that seemed fun at the time and just deal with the consequences and just enjoying being those characters in the moment. I always see people having a very strong preference on this. I personally like playing both. I don't want it too rigid and on rails ever, and too sandboxy with absolutely no idea of where we're going. So I sometimes like that, but it's not always for me. So I like variety and every week trying out something new. Which one do you prefer? Maybe comment down below to make the channel grow. Whoa, just made that up, oh dear. Ideology number 5, collaboration. Somewhat tied to the previous point, how much of a divide do you want between the GM and the players? Can players suggest narrative elements or suggest what happens in the world, or do they strictly have only control over their characters? Some games have codified rules for adding player narrative elements. For a lot of you, this will seem like a hard no, but if you play with creative people or fellow GMs especially, give this a try in a game sometime and determine how much power you want them to have. Can they merely add tiny narrative details at a time that might not break your story? Are they fully fledged co-GMs that have almost the same amount of power as you? Must they spend a limited meta currency whenever they wish to invoke these powers, which you don't have? Some systems are more built for this, but I'd say try some of those mechanics in your system or throw some of them out and see how it goes. Just borrow, cut and paste, and butcher your favorite system. Their designer probably doesn't mind. And if they do, let them pick a fight with me and send them to my channel, like and subscribe. Ideology 6, crunchiness. Do you want to go for very crunchy rules with a full combat grid with rules for cover and visibility and everything else? Or do you want to go super light on rules and have a singular mechanic that resolves everything? I usually go for systems that are slightly lighter on crunch, but even something like Call of Cthulhu that has a bit more crunch, I throw most of the rules away. I just let players roll the skills mainly and run a very toned down version of the combat rules, because that's a game where the story is very important to me and the immersion, and I want to focus on heavy role playing in Call of Cthulhu, so I strip down the rules. It doesn't need to be that crunchy for me. Yet when I play something like Forbidden Lands, I really want all those crunchy survival mechanics because I feel they add to the unfolding narrative of what that game is about. If rules are either cumbersome or incomplete to you, read lots of different games and borrow from them. I can honestly say if you've only played a small handful of systems, that reading more of them and playing more different systems, you'll really start to realize what you really like and what works and is conducive towards telling a particular story and cultivating that specific experience that you want for this session. So become familiar with and read a lot more systems. It really, really helped me. And our last ideology, number 7, is character skill versus player skill. In most OSR games, you have to use your inventory and the environment to get an upper hand. You have to ask clever questions about the world and not waste time doing suboptimal things or waste your round, because you might land into a lot of trouble. Good stats, a good character sheet, and just relying on decent rolls will often still get you killed. Other games are all about that sick build that you crafted and is now helping you to defeat all the GM's challenges. So is your character the one with the skills needed to overcome this adversity? Or is it your skills as a player and you need to be creative and circumvent the GM's dastardly plans by playing really well? So why not, if players keep struggling and they seem to have too much pressure on them to constantly be creative to survive, buff their stats a bit so that their dice rolls can matter a bit more? Or, if your system is too lenient and their builds are too OP, make challenges a lot harder, maybe hand out a lot of little single-use magic items that do very specific things, but that they can use in a creative way to maybe give them the upper hand and put their creativity to the test. Chop and change, do what works for you. Thank you all so much for watching till the end. Let me know if, like me, you also love experimenting with any of these metrics, if there are any of them I've left out, if you have a preferred playstyle in TTRPGs and you're happy with sticking with that for now, that's also cool by me. I, for one, love so many TTRPGs and types of stories and playstyles that I think being honest about what we want from a particular game and having a candid, transparent conversation with your players up front and really understand their needs and wants from this game, this is a far better way to have a memorable session rather than following some rulebook verbatim or system or code of rules. Please consider subbing if you haven't. This fledgling channel really needs it, and to those who have supported up till now, I deeply appreciate that. Otherwise, have a great day out there, everyone. Cheerio.